OpenAI was founded on a single promise, that someone needed to build artificial general intelligence safely, for the benefit of all humanity, not for shareholders. That was the whole point. The non-profit structure was not a quirk, it was the mission. And last month, OpenAI quietly filed paperwork to become a for-profit corporation. Not a capped profit hybrid. A real company. With real investors expecting real returns. The entity that controls the most advanced AI systems on Earth just told us, in writing, that safety is no longer the organizing principle. And almost nobody is treating this like the inflection point it actually is. Welcome back to Zero Index. To understand why this matters, you need to understand how OpenAI got here in the first place. In December 2015, a group that included Elon Musk, Sam Altman, and several prominent AI researchers announced they were forming a new organization. The pitch was simple and terrifying. AI was coming whether anyone liked it or not. The question was who would build it and under what constraints. Google had acquired DeepMind. Facebook was scaling its AI research. The argument OpenAI made was that a non-profit, with no profit motive distorting its priorities, could serve as a counterweight. A safety-focused lab that would publish its research openly and put humanity's interests ahead of quarterly earnings. That framing raised over $1 billion in commitments. It attracted some of the best researchers in the field. It gave OpenAI a moral authority that no other lab could claim. When they said something was safe or unsafe, people listened differently than they would have listened to Google. And then something happened that changed everything. GPT-2. GPT-3. ChatGPT. The technology actually worked. Not in some abstract research sense but in a way that captured hundreds of millions of users and suddenly looked like one of the most valuable platforms ever created. There is a pattern I have tracked across dozens of technology companies, and I will come back to it later in this video because it explains almost everything about what is happening now. But the short version is this: the moment a non-profit creates something with real commercial value, the structure starts to crack. In 2019, OpenAI restructured. They announced something called a capped profit model. The idea was clever. They would create a for-profit subsidiary, but investor returns would be capped at 100 times their investment. Anything beyond that would flow back to the non-profit for the benefit of humanity. I want to be precise about this because most people misunderstood it at the time and still misunderstand it now. The cap sounded like a real limit. 100 times returns, then you are done. But here is what that actually means. Microsoft invested $13 billion across multiple rounds. 100 times return on even a fraction of that is generational wealth for everyone involved. The cap was not a constraint. It was permission to pursue unlimited growth while maintaining the illusion of restraint. And the nonprofit technically remained in control. The board could still fire the CEO. The mission statement still talked about broadly distributed benefits. The language stayed the same even as the incentives completely changed. A researcher at Berkeley named Stuart Russell, who has been working on AI safety for decades, put it this way in an interview last year. He said the capped profit structure created exactly the wrong incentives. Everyone inside OpenAI knew the company was worth potentially trillions. Everyone knew they were racing against Google and Anthropic. The cap did not reduce the pressure. It just made people feel better about ignoring it. And this is where it gets strange. Because everything I just described was already the compromised version. What they announced last month is the final step. In April 2024, OpenAI began working with lawyers and advisors on a full conversion to a for-profit benefit corporation. The nonprofit would retain a minority stake, probably somewhere between 5 and 15%. The board would no longer have mission-based veto power. Investor returns would no longer be capped. Let me put that in concrete terms. Microsoft and the other major investors will now have the same relationship with OpenAI that they have with any other company in their portfolio. Their fiduciary duty is to maximize shareholder value. Not to ensure AI benefits humanity. Not to slow down if safety concerns emerge. To make money. I tracked down the actual Delaware filings, and what struck me was not the legal language. It was the timing. They announced this restructuring just weeks after several senior safety researchers resigned. Jan Like, who culled the superalignment team, left in May. In his departure statement, he wrote that safety had taken a back seat to shiny products. Ilya Sutskever, the co-founder and chief scientist who reportedly pushed back against the board during the Altman firing drama, left the same week. These were not random departures. These were the people whose entire job was to pump the brakes. And here is the part nobody is talking about. The non-profit structure was not just symbolic. It was legally binding. It meant that if OpenAI ever built something genuinely dangerous, the board could shut it down. They could refuse to deploy. They could prioritize safety over revenue even if it cost billions. That power is now gone. I said earlier there was a pattern I have been tracking, and this is where I need to close that loop because it changes how you should interpret everything else. Every nonprofit that creates something commercially valuable eventually faces the same crisis. The Mozilla Foundation built Firefox, and the browser became so successful that they had to create a for-profit subsidiary to handle the advertising deals with Google. Wikipedia's nonprofit structure has held, but only because donations can sustain it. The moment a nonprofit needs serious capital, hundreds of millions, billions, the structure cannot survive. OpenAI needed computing power. Not a little. More than any academic institution could provide. A single training run for GPT-4 cost over $100 million. The next generation will cost more. And there is no nonprofit in the world that can sustain that kind of spend without investors who expect returns. This is the brutal logic that people do not want to face. AI safety, real AI safety, might be incompatible with building frontier AI at all. If you need billions to compete, you need investors. If you need investors, you need growth. If you need growth, you cannot prioritize slowing down. Actually, I need to stop here because most people get this completely wrong. They think the problem is greed. They think Sam Altman sold out. But the structure made this inevitable from the moment GPT-3 worked. The sellout happened in 2019 when they took the first billion. Everything since then has just been the consequences playing out. You might be thinking, so what? Google is for profit. Anthropic has investors. Meta is publicly traded. Why does it matter if OpenAI joins them? Here is why it matters. OpenAI was the only major lab founded specifically on the premise that profit motives would distort AI development. They built their entire brand, their recruiting pitch, their regulatory influence on the claim that they were different. When OpenAI testified before Congress about AI risks, the subtext was always, "Trust us, we are the responsible ones, we are not in this for the money." That credibility is now gone. And it is not coming back. But the real damage is more subtle. OpenAI's existence as a nonprofit created pressure on the entire industry. Google had to explain why their AI ethics team mattered. Anthropic structured itself as a public benefit corporation partly because OpenAI had set the expectation that AI companies should have mission constraints. That pressure is now evaporating. I will be honest, I did not see this coming when I first started covering this story. I thought the capped profit structure would hold for at least another 5 years. I thought the board drama in November 2023, when they briefly fired Altman, would lead to stronger safety governance, not weaker. But in retrospect, the board drama showed exactly why the old structure could not survive. The moment Altman supporters threatened to take the company to Microsoft, the board folded. The nonprofit's power was theoretical. The money's power was real. So where does this leave us? An AI lab racing toward artificial general intelligence with no structural commitment to safety. A board that answers to investors. A competitive dynamic with Google and Anthropic that rewards speed over caution. I want to be clear about what I am not saying. I am not saying OpenAI will build something dangerous next week. I am not saying the people there do not care about safety. Many of them genuinely do. What I am saying is that the guardrails are gone. The decisions will now be made by people whose primary obligation is to shareholders. And when there is a conflict between safety and growth, growth will win. Not because anyone is evil. Because that is what for-profit structures do. The question you need to ask yourself is simple. When OpenAI says a system is safe enough to deploy, do you trust that judgment more or less now that you know who they answer to? Here is what keeps me up at night. If the organization founded specifically to build AI safely just abandoned that structure, what does that tell us about whether safe AI development is actually possible at frontier scale? Maybe it is not. Maybe the compute requirements are so massive, the competitive pressures so intense, that any organization trying to build cutting-edge AI will eventually face the same choice OpenAI faced. Money or mission? And money will always win. I do not have a clean answer. But I think everyone watching needs to sit with that question. Because if the answer is yes, then the entire conversation about AI safety needs to change. It cannot be about trusting the right company. It has to be about whether we build these systems at all. If this is the kind of analysis that matters to you, subscribe. Because this story is not over.